Good evening, everyone. Here we are for our latest community information seminar. And I've got to say, I'm particularly excited about this seminar because we're doing a deep dive. We're going to be unpacking all things economic and what Willoughby City Council is doing to help not only local businesses, but the way that they interact with community, what we're doing to lead economic recovery. And we want to ensure that Willoughby's economy flourishes now and in the future. We're going to unpack how Council is working to help create jobs and wealth by bringing the businesses and also the community together. And it was very apparent during COVID how the businesses and the community do work so well together and support each other. So we want to try and facilitate that as much as we possibly can. We want to help existing businesses expand and attract new businesses, providing opportunities for trading and also attracting customers to help growth. We're going to be providing insights into the steps that Council has taken to support the recovery post-COVID and how we're encouraging the community to support local, which is so very important. I know with the local businesses in my area, I love being able to walk up to our little local centre, interact with people, meet the neighbours, and it was a really great sense of community, which we hope to foster into the future. We're also going to explore a raft of data. Yes, we'll be deep diving into data as well, revealing the state of the economy in the area. And we're going to be arming you with information to start your own business and also help you understand the state of the local economy at the moment, and also about exciting plans to reinvigorate our Chatswood CBD laneways. And the good news is we'll also be breaking for questions. We've got 3 different tranches of this presentation, which we do envisage will take around an hour and a quarter. And we'll be talking about Willoughby Council as providing a leadership role. We'll be talking about our data dashboard, and we'll be talking about Support Local, our food campaign, and also our laneways. And we've got some very special presenters who I'll introduce to you shortly. So our first presenter is our Economic Development Manager, John Elliott, and we're thrilled that John's now part of the team. He's got 30 years of experience working as an economic development role in the UK, Queensland, and now right here in Sydney. He's been with Council for around 7 months, and his key achievements have been attracting international business into the area, helping them expand, diversifying regional economies, building and managing a number of co-working spaces, and developing a range of strategies from economic development, tourism, arts, and community plans. As you can tell, he's got a great depth of experience. And John's inspired by showing people a future and creating a roadmap of where we want to be, and importantly, ways that we can help people get there. So welcome, John. Great to hear from you today.
Thank you, Mayor. It's great to be here and be able to start to talk through about economic development and do some explanation of what that is.
Terrific. So over to you.
Okay, we've got the first presentation coming up. Okay, so economic development. So what I want to outline here is the role of economic development in a general sense, but that role in Willoughby itself. So economic development, it's a phrase that a lot of people have heard, and especially in the last year with COVID. And that's economic development is the investment in growing our economy and enhancing the prosperity and the quality of life for all our residents. So it's not just the business, it's about our local residents. And that's kind of distilled down to it's about creating wealth and about creating jobs. And that's my role. So the ways we do this, some key actions here in terms of helping to build a robust economy. What we're doing initially is we're setting the strategic aims, we're creating the right environment for business to operate in, and we're building the vision so that businesses have some clarity and certainty as to what the area is going to be like, so that when they make their investment decisions, that they know that the area is going to be exactly as they're looking for. We look at enabling job creation, and that's part of providing information and advice. There's a bit of information about that later. Providing places for business to operate. Council has a whole range of roles as a council, and economic development as a function of that, but also the planning scheme, so where business can operate in having commercial areas, retail areas, and industrial estates. And that enables us to create opportunities for businesses to start up and for jobs and training. The other areas are we support business retention and expansion. Part of that is providing training or giving access to training to enable new skills to be developed, changes in the economy, and the next generation of people to come through for work. Providing business advice and support, helping businesses deal with situations, and we saw that most recently in the last year, of how to deal with that and the changes that businesses have had to go through, particularly COVID safety plans, and dealing with deliveries and changing the businesses. And also about, we highlight and celebrate local businesses, those key businesses that are very successful, that create a lot of jobs, bring in a lot of revenue, and promote the area by being here as well. And we also provide information on funding and grants. Council has a great online grant finder service, which you can go through and put in all the information that what you're looking for, and it will sort of give you a list of grants to help you find that. And we're about driving and supporting industry diversification. So we're identifying key growth business sectors, and then as you'll see in part of the data presentation, we've mapped those out, and there are differences depending on the sectors as to whether they're key for businesses numbers, employment numbers, or the output, so that's the amount of wealth they generate. And we also look to attract new businesses to the area, the kind of businesses we want in the key sectors that we want as well, to make sure that we have that full and robust economy. So some of the key ways we do this in leadership and strategy, and this is very Willoughby context now. So council last year, there's a COVID response, created a number of business support packages, and I'll talk about those in detail in a little bit. Also towards the end of last year, as we were coming out of that initial COVID response, we developed an economic recovery plan, which council approved at the end of last year, and we're working through that at the moment. And what that will lead into then is an economic development strategy, which we're starting the process of now. In terms of data and information, we've got our economic data dashboard, and Ella will be talking around that, and an online business toolkit, which is on our website, and that's to help businesses through the process of setting up or looking to expand or looking to grow. In terms of promotions and activations, we're setting up two big campaigns. One's the Support Local, which I'll talk about, and a food and drink campaign, which Sam will talk about later. And part of what Sam will also mention is the Culture Bites umbrella phrase we're using for a range of events and activities around the CBD. And in terms of the physical changes in the public realm, we'll talk about the laneways and what we're doing with the 4 laneways around Chatswood CBD. And also council, in terms of the advice, co-funds the Better Business Partnership, in terms of helping businesses improve their environmental sustainability. So that's a quick introduction to economic development and the sort of the overview of it. So if there's any questions, we have a question and answer session there. Otherwise, I'll go on to the next phase, which is the leadership and strategy role. So this section is about how council supporting the recovery of Willoughby in the economy post-COVID, and developing that strategy for the future about where we want to be and how we get there. So in terms of the COVID response, as I mentioned in March last year, which seems so long ago now, yeah. So much has changed. The council created a business support package, was very agile in responding to the COVID pandemic. That package injected $2.3 million into the local economy to help businesses survive. It was our immediate response. And that was through rent relief and fee concessions, primarily to help businesses stay afloat, reduce their costs, allow them to trade through and survive. As things went on, obviously, it carried on a bit longer, so council passed a second business support package in October, which injected a further £500,000 into the local economy in the same areas as well. Some of the businesses that we'd helped earlier on were getting back on their feet. So that's why there was a lower figure there. And that was a good sign that we saw that recovery happening. And then also in October, Council passed its economic recovery plan, which established a range of functions and starting to look forward from moving from dealing with the immediate shock impacts of COVID to actually how we recover and carry on. So that recovery plan had 3 key sections. There was about building confidence, business support, and increasing activity in the Chatswood CBD, about bringing people back in so that the businesses had customers ready to help them recover. So in terms of building confidence, what we'll be publishing is an annual statement of business activity, a kind of a state of the union report, which will be available, and the Mayor will launch that probably around July or August time, to help people understand where we're at and what's happening in the area. And we established a business forum, which met at the beginning of February for the first time, and will meet quarterly throughout the year. And this is where we're engaging and bringing together all the key businesses in the area and the key business organisations, so that we can work together, council and the business community, in terms of helping drive that economic development process, and to get feedback both ways. We can explain what we're doing and the businesses can tell us what the issues are. We developed an online business toolkit, which is on the council's website in the business section. And that's just a step-by-step process that businesses can go through to help them in terms of driving that business, but also seeing any gaps that they might have. In terms of business support, the council has initiated paying invoices for local businesses within 7 days. And that started in February. Part of the reason for that is to recirculate money into the economy. And we're encouraging other local businesses to do the same, because the more the money goes around the economy, everybody benefits. And that's a very strong leadership message from the council that we're doing that. And we're initiating the Buy Local programme, which we'll talk about in a moment. And the next 2 things, the training sessions and the doing business with council, we're developing at the moment. So the doing business with councils about how local businesses can help win some of those council contracts and win some of the procurement processes. So again, we can keep some of the money locally. And the wider business training sessions, we'll be working with some private sector providers to give businesses training in key areas that they're looking for, and that's what we're developing. In terms of the Chatswood CBD activity, the Moore Market, we extended that towards the end of last year to help that recovery and bring people back in. We reduced the fees for the stall holders. So we got about 90–95% occupancy on each one of those. And that was really useful in starting to get people used to coming back into the CBD in an open space, so they felt safer and the trading, and that was very successful. We'll be doing a food and drink promotion campaign, building on things we've done before, which Sam will talk about. And also we've been increasing and working with businesses to increase outdoor dining. So the council now has a process that's very quick, very easy, and fast turnaround approvals for that. And we've already seen an increase in some of the outdoor dining areas. So the current activities we're working through at the moment is the data dashboard, and providing all that information, supporting local jobs and businesses with the Support Local campaign, and the food and drink, which is highlighting one of our key local business sectors in terms of employment, but also the number of businesses as well. And obviously Chatswood has a huge number of food businesses. In terms of the laneways, we'll be commencing works on those in July, because we got a $1.4 million Commonwealth grant, which is also about stimulating the economy and bringing people back into centres and creating more public space around those. And the Better Business Partnership will be continuing to support them in terms of helping businesses with their environmental upgrades. So recent new activities we've done, council, its last meeting in April, approved an economic development grants, and this will be grants for small business startups and innovative projects, and we'll be calling for grant applications and approving those from July this year. Council also approved initiating some business awards, so we celebrate our best businesses and highlight those. So we're defining the criteria for those at the moment, with the first awards to be given out in July. And at the concourse, the heart of Chatswood and the heart of the North Shore and the Arts Sense, we'll be appointing a new precinct manager to help revitalise that and bring that back to the level that we really want it to be, so that it becomes sort of a key attractor within Chatswood. All of this will then, so instead of just sitting back and writing a strategy and then doing things, we're sort of running things in parallel. We're running programs and projects to help that recovery and growth. We're also developing the strategy for the much longer term future. So about defining our vision, what the future growth sectors, what job growth areas we want to target and bring people in, what business opportunities there will be and what we drive towards and what we encourage, how we support business growth in those areas, and also targeting some key developments and projects around the area to bring in more of that space and activity for businesses to operate from. And all through this process, we'll be engaging with local businesses, which we do every day anyway, get that feedback of what's happening. And the aim is to have that available in August this year. That's what we're doing. Wow, it's a lot, John. It's a little bit, yes. Yeah, good. That is very, very comprehensive. And it's interesting, I know that you co-hosted the Mayor's Business Forum, we're there, and it was really interesting to hear from those businesses and what they'd been through in COVID. Do you want to just describe a little bit about the feedback from that forum and the different way that business is being done now in the city of Chatswood in particular? Yeah, it's fascinating in terms of how businesses were incredibly adaptable and adapted to COVID in terms of how they got products to their customers, how they got their customers into their products. So we had some delivery businesses combining to do joint deliveries of food. Also, a lot of businesses discovering the online process for the first time and developing that. And the feedback that we got from businesses was that they were really pleased that we were having this conversation with them as well, and being a part of that decision-making process within council. And what fascinated me too was the way that the restaurants, for example, might have been really busy on a Friday night or during the week and not so much, whereas they were finding that the pattern of business had changed. Lots of people working from home, for example, on Fridays. So they were busier during the week rather than on the Friday night trade. Yeah, it's been a really interesting shift because people have moved to be around more space. So one of the local alcohol venues that we have was saying that they're now getting a lot of people in on Tuesday nights, which they never used to, and Friday lunches. But also what we discovered was the smaller areas outside of Chatswood, where those business communities are, their trade went up during COVID. So that whilst the CBD came down, the local areas like Northbridge and Castle Crag, the businesses there actually had more people because people were working from home and actually suddenly discovering what was on their doorstep, which was really useful and really good. And I think that'll be a long-term trend as well. So keeping those local centres vibrant and community hubs like the local coffee shop. Yeah, and I know that council's done a lot of work with the local centres strategy, for example, very timely because we were doing that work just as COVID was hitting, and that focusing on being able to walk to your local centre, we had identified pre-COVID as being so important, and of course that's paid off and certainly proven itself, hasn't it? And there's a lot of people were discovering for the first time their local coffee shop and thinking it was brand new, and yet it had been there 10, 15 years. Yeah. And finding new people within their community as well. And that also helps business. People start to trade locally within their community as well. Yeah, I know when I was getting around talking to local coffee shop owners and local butchers in particular, they were the ones that seemed to be the real COVID winners, which was quite interesting. Yeah, so there's been a very different shift, and that's why within the recovery plan we were focused on bringing people back into the Chatswood CBD as well, because that was the area that had seen a decrease in some instances of 60%. And we've got a question that's come through from Melbourne.
And Melvin's saying it's a great presentation so far. And John, learning about the next steps. You mentioned projects, and are you able to give examples of that?
Well, we're starting to, some of the projects we're talking about are the laneways, the food campaign, the support local, but also as part of the economic development program, that's what we're going to tease out as well and bring some of those projects that people want out. And that might be in training, it might be in business development. We're probably going to be looking at some co-working space as well and some property development.
Right. And so this is part of the reason why we're holding things like the business forums and getting together regularly with businesses. I guess it doesn't want to be a council-driven approach. It needs to be a business-driven approach and us responding to what their needs are. Is that right? That's
right. I mean, we're all in this together and it's cooperating, so we can set some of the leadership strategy, but certainly some of the on-the-ground projects that businesses are looking for, and that's what we'll respond to and build those, rather than us saying that's what we think is needed. We actually want to deliver what is genuinely needed.
Yeah, and so we're expecting that to be available by August, I believe.
August, yeah.
Yeah, would be terrific. Also, the business awards, it was interesting when we've been talking to local businesses and the way that businesses have stepped up on occasions, particularly during COVID. And you and I spoke about the need to recognise those businesses that are really going above and beyond, particularly from the community. I know we had our local distiller who changed the formula to make hand sanitizer. He was dropping off to the local police station and other people in the community. And we saw lots of examples of that. Hospo Market, for example, a new innovation kind of in competition, I guess, to Uber Eats, etc. So most of the money was going back then to the individual restaurants making the takeaway food, and they were donating food through to the local Life Source Food Bank. And so we were really so thrilled with the way that businesses responded in a time of crisis, and I think only right that they should be recognised for those efforts.
Absolutely, and it also builds that understanding that business is about cooperation. It's not always about competition, and if businesses work together, they can create a bigger economy, and everybody benefits a lot better from that.
And with these grants and awards, is there any other focus that you're looking at there?
No, we're starting those quite small at the moment. They're relatively small grants, but they're aimed at small startup businesses, innovative projects, maybe getting businesses just off the ground. And we'll see what the response is for that. And if we need to develop that further, we will.
Yeah, it sounds terrific. And you did say about identifying key growth business sectors and attracting new businesses to the area. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and how you go about doing that? And are there key business sectors for Willoughby?
Well, it's quite interesting. If we look at some of the data, we have sectors that are very high, for instance, in outputs. That's the amount of money they generate. So information and media and telecoms are like that, but there are a very small number of businesses. But we have other areas with high numbers of businesses, but sort of small numbers of employees, and others with high employees and small number of businesses. So retail trade, for instance, we have quite a large number of businesses, but huge numbers of employment within that sector. So each sector has its nuances within it. And so what we're going to do is tease out which of those key sectors. There's about 8 in Willoughby, which is probably a bit large for what we want to attract. And then once we've highlighted those key ones we want to develop, then we start working with businesses in those sectors to see what they need to develop, what training they need, what space they need, and see how we can work to develop all of that.
Wow. So I hope everyone's getting the sense that a lot going on here at Willoughby City Council under John's leadership. We're very excited about the future. We know that it has been tough for businesses, and we're doing whatever we can to try and support them. So if you've got other ideas as well, we would love to hear from you. And certainly John's still working through this process of developing a strategy. So now would be an excellent time to engage.